What's up, everybody? I'm Mckenty. This is my second channel, and this is your home for my Twitch highlights and my podcast. So if you like this and you want to see more of that and you want to join the live streams, there's a link to that in the description of this video. And with that out of the way, it is time for the front person tier list part 2. As a reminder, we will be ranking each of these front people on 3 different categories. Number 1 is their skill at whatever it is they do, whether that is singing, playing guitar, whatever this person does, right? Because if this person is just freakishly good at what they do, you got to give them some credit for that, right? Number 2 is charisma, because that's sort of the flip side of being a front person, is that it is not just about how good you are at singing or playing guitar or whatever. You've got to be able to get people to pay attention to you. That is the other part. I mean, there's people like David Lee Roth, not the world's best vocalist, but a great frontman because he is so charismatic. And the third and most important category is, how much would I like to be friends with this person? Would I like to invite them over to enjoy a grapefruit spindrift and eat some carrots and watch UFC with me? That is the most important category. So where should we start? I got a list of a few people. You guys can help me come up with some other ones, but I got a lot of great suggestions in my last one. The first one that many people asked about was Axl Rose. Should I try to find like vintage Axl Rose when he was really pretty? Or should we go with newer Axl Rose when he's not so pretty? Let's go with vintage Axl. Vintage pretty boy Axl. Now, where does he belong? I think if you believe that Axl Rose is anything other than an incredible singer, you're out of your mind. You may think that Alex Rose, I'm going to call him Alex Rose from now on. You may think that Alex Rose is a soulless ginger, and you would be right. You might think that he is a crazy person with anger management issues and a giant ego, and you would be right. But if you try to deny this man's vocal ability, you're out of your mind. One of the best singers to ever play, I guess we'll call it metal, rock, metal, whatever. One of the best singers ever, period, hands down. The charisma category, you know, he's one of these people like Dave Mustaine, who's like super charismatic, but in a way that like you don't like him. You know, if charisma is defined as the ability to attract and retain attention, Alex Rose and Dave Mustaine, like, nobody likes them, yet for some reason we all pay attention to him when they do or say anything, right? So on that category, I would say that he ranks pretty high. The third category, do I want to be friends with him? Hell fucking no. I don't want Alex Rose anywhere near me or anybody I know. He is the last person that I would want to invite into my life in any way. However, he is so damn good. Here it is, 35 years since Guns N' Roses were in their prime. Appetite for Destruction is the best thing they ever did. I don't care what anyone says. That came out 35 years ago. And yet here we are, still talking about Alex Rose. People still referencing Guns N' Roses as an influence because Alex Rose is that good. He is an S-tier frontman. Any way you want to look at it. I would never want to meet this guy ever. Yes, exactly. I agree. 35 years ago. Yes, it came out in 1987. That was 35 years ago. Isn't that terrible? But would you want him at your barbecue? Well, it's kind of true. I mean, I don't want to be friends with Alex Rose, but it would be cool to have him on my barbecue just to say that Alex Rose went to your barbecue, right? So I remember a friend of mine years ago, he ran into some like female celebrity at a party and was like trying to hook up with her. And I don't remember who it was, but I remember that I didn't find her very attractive. And I was like, ew, why? And he's like, because she's famous. He's like, bro, I'd fuck Rosie O'Donnell. Just for the clout. So, all right, fair enough. So, do I want to be friends with Alex Rose? No, but I would love to have him at my barbecue just for the clout. Next up, someone, that I know a lot of you guys love. Chino Moreno from the Deftones, or as I like to call them, Deftone. Is this him in high school? Man, he looks like, he looks so trendy. Like, he looks like he'd be a TikTok rapper now. We'll use a newer picture of him. I feel like every picture of him looks like this. Screaming about being horny. That's what all their songs are about, right? Being horny and like being in a band with a flat earther. Is he a good vocalist? Where do we rate him on his skill? Well, I mean, Deftones don't suck, right? But I don't know. This is the one everyone likes, right? Pretty cool riffs. Oh, whoa. Got a man. Like, he's not a great vocalist, right? He's quiet and then he's loud. He does have a vibe, for sure. The appeal of Deftones, to me, as someone who's admittedly not a Deftones fan, great drummer, really cool riffs, great production. He's not a bad vocalist, but I think really with the Deftones, I think it's their riffs and the drums more than anything that drive the band. His charisma, well, I'm not a fan of the Deft Ones. I mean, I don't hate them, but I'm not a Deft Ones fan, as you guys know. But there's something about him that people do seem to love. I mean, Deftones fans are just these insanely obsessive people that, I don't know, the Deftones could be a cult, you know? Like, you would read some newspaper article about how Chino Moreno got everybody to, like, buy shell toe Adidas and, like, drink the poison Kool-Aid at the show, and, like, 450 people died because he told them to. So clearly he's got some sort of charisma. Would I want to be friends with him? I mean, he seems like a cool guy. Seems like a pretty normal dude, other than being super horny. But yeah, he's got a cool uncle vibe. I agree with that. Seems like a decent dude. I like him. But, you know, can we put him anywhere near Axl Rose? I don't think so. I think B tier is fair for him. What do you guys think? Yeah, B is fair. Okay, good. I'm glad that the Deftones fans are not coming after me for this. All right, next up, M Shadows. Matt Sanders of the Avenged Sevenfolds. Vocally, I gotta be honest, I'm a big fan of Avenged Sevenfold. I love this band. I always liked them, but my wife is like an Avenged Sevenfold mega fan, and she really kind of converted me to the cause. I appreciate them much more than I did before. But I will say, I don't think he is the best vocalist. He doesn't suck by any means, but I don't think he's fantastic. He looks like an Affliction ad. I know, exactly. I love it. I love his vibe. I just, all I ever wanted to be was an Affliction ad. He's not a bad vocalist, but I don't think he's amazing. Pretty charismatic dude. Again, not amazingly charismatic, but would I like to be friends with him? I absolutely would. He seems like a great guy. Me and Brian from Rockfeed did an interview with him. I know Johnny Christ a little bit. Seem like super cool guys. Matt is a really solid like entrepreneur and investor. We did a show with him about NFTs. Really smart guy. I would love to hang out with them. I could imagine having Brian and Matt and Johnny, of course, over for a barbecue in Huntington Beach. Everything's cool until Axl Rose shows up. And we're like, oh shit, look who's coming. Axl Rose. Like, this is going to be interesting. And then Axl Rose has a tantrum, throws the coleslaw at the house and storms off. And then we're all just standing around holding our grapefruit spindrifts, laughing like, oh, well, that's going to be a good story for everyone. Anyway, let's go watch the UFC prelims. Yeah, he's an absolute Chad. Exactly. I feel like me and Matt, I think we'd be friends. I really do. Maybe not as good as friends as me and Sugar Ray. Sugar Ray and I, we're like this, two peas in a pod. So with that being said, I would put him above Chino, and obviously Avenged Sevenfold, much more successful band than the Deft Ones. So that's what I think. I think Matt Sanders goes in the A tier above Chino of the Deft Ones. That's what I think. Tom Araya. Oh, that's a good one. Tom Araya of Slayer. Well, there's a lot to be said here. For one, look, Chilean-American musician, born in Chile. A lot of people don't know this. You know, there was always these accusations that Slayer was white power, despite the fact that two of them are Hispanic immigrants. He's from Chile. Dave Lombardo, born in Cuba. So that would be a little bit weird for them to be like white power, considering that two of them aren't white. Here's my favorite thing, is that Tom is Catholic. And this is surprising to people. I think it's only surprising to people that don't know anything about like South Americans. So that's my favorite thing about Tom Araya, is that he is actually just your standard 61-year-old South American dad. Catholic dad. It's my favorite thing about him. Do I want to be friends with this person? I would. I would definitely like to hang out with Tom Araya. He seems like a solid guy. I like him. Seems like a nice dude. Skill, well, look, let's just be real. Slayer's a great band. One of my favorite bands of all time. Not a great singer. You know, let's just be real. Slayer's popular for one reason and one reason only, because Jeff Hanneman wrote some of the best fucking riffs of all time. Anyone who denies Jeff Hanneman's ability to write riffs has no soul. You are trash. You are garbage. If you deny Jeff Hanneman as the god of riffs, you should be burned alive on stage in front of a Slayer crowd chanting Slayer, 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 while the rest of us headbang to Silent Scream. A tribute to Jeff Hanneman. Charisma, he's really not the most charismatic guy either. As much as I love Slayer, as much as I love Tomariah, as much as I want to be friends with him, we can hang out after church together. I'm not Catholic, but my mother-in-law is, so we do go to church with her sometimes. C tier is the fair place for Tom. Give me some other ones here. Craig Owens, that's a good one. Let's talk about Craig Owens. All right. So as most of you guys know, Craig Owens was the singer of Chiodos, who, kind of seemed like they were going to be a big deal at one point and, really kind of never lived up to it. And I think the reason for that is because of Craig Owens' huge ego. This is my favorite thing. This is the incredibly melodramatic trailer that they made for the Chiodos reunion, which I got to shout out. Austin Knight from Water Parks reminded me that this existed. This is one of my favorite things. Like, oh, what's this? They're from Michigan, right? So 75 south to Detroit. What's going on? Why are they traveling on 75 south? And who's... Wait a minute. I think I recognize the silhouette there. I think I recognize that face. Who is it? Is that Craig? Could that be Craig Owens? What's going on? What's Craig doing? Oh, he's just hanging out with his iPad looking at the Chiodos logo. Well, I was just sitting around on a Saturday afternoon looking at the Chiodos logo on my iPad when suddenly there was a knock at the door. He's got his bowling shoes and high water pants. Let's do this. Let's do this. One of my favorite pieces of content of all time. Now, clearly the guy has some charisma, right? I mean, he was like a scene heartthrob. The guy's got some charisma. Can't deny that. But vocal ability... It's unlistenable. Like, this band is terrible. Mostly because of his vocals. Like, ugh. Not a great vocalist, and would I like to be friends with him? Well, I don't know that anybody wants to be friends with Craig Owens. Let's just be real. There's a reason why every one of his bands breaks up. You look at the lineups of these bands, and he's the only person that's been in the only consistent member that's been in these bands. You go on Wikipedia and you see one of these charts, right? And you see stuff like this, where there's this one guy here, and then everyone else comes and goes, and then he finally convinces them to come back here for some sort of a reunion. You know what the deal is, right? You know that this person is incredibly difficult to work with. Nobody wants to be in a band with him. You see the same thing with Drugs. Yeah, all good until everybody quits the band except for Craig for 8 years. And then he reforms it with some sort of lineup, that has all new people. You know the deal. So where would I put him? Say, not a great vocalist. He's pretty charismatic. But give him that. Good-looking, charismatic guy. But not a great vocalist. Clearly hard to work with. Do I want to be friends with him? I want to be friends with him if and only if we can hang out with his Gen 1 iPad looking at the Chiodos logo together. I'll hang out with him to do that, but that's it. Jeremy Mckinnon from A Day to Remember. Gosh, that's a flattering picture. I would say, as far as talent goes, he is a pretty good vocalist, but he's a really, really, really fucking good songwriter. I don't know him personally, but we have lots of mutual friends. I know lots of people who have worked with him. We used to share studio space with them. So I have a pretty good sense of, how he works and who he is and stuff. Extremely fucking good songwriter. Very good vocalist, but like elite tier songwriter. He is like kind of the primary force behind their music. Yeah, he's pretty charismatic. I wouldn't say he's no Ollie Sykes, but he's definitely a charismatic guy. And would I be friends with him? Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know him, but we have enough friends in common that I think I have a pretty good sense of Jeremy, of who Jeremy is. So do I want to be friends with him? Yeah. I talked to him on Instagram a little bit. I consider us friends. Jeremy, I hope you don't think that's weird. I think I've met him briefly. Maybe we were at the studio once or something like that. Maybe not. I don't know. But Jeremy, I'm going to go ahead and consider us friends. Even though we're not really friends, I'm going to consider us friends. And I would put him on the same level as Chino from the Deft Ones, I think. B tier, right? Certainly better than Tomariah, certainly better than Craig Owens, but not on the same league as Axl Rose or Matt Sanders, right? That seems fair. How about Maynard? Yeah, what do we think about Maynard? Maynard James Keenan from Tool. Tool. I want to say it like that. Tool. Like Toowl. Tool. What do we think about Maynard from Tool? I don't love Tool. I don't think they're terrible or anything like that. But I think he's a pretty damn good vocalist. Maybe not elite, but he's pretty damn good. Is he charismatic? You know, in his own way, he sort of is. You know, like, there's a reason that their fans worship this band, right? And part of that is definitely because the other guys in the band, you know, like Adam and what's the fucking drummer's name? Danny. Incredible musicians. I think they're a big part of the reason why people like the band, but you got to give Maynard some credit for that too, right? Pretty charismatic guy in his own way. Do I want to be friends with him? You know, I'm not sure that I would. He seems a little weird. I'm not into hanging out with weird people, although he is a jiu-jitsu guy. I think he's a brown belt, so I can respect that, you know. He's got some interesting business ventures going on. I could probably talk shop with him about that. It's not like a Craig Owens where, like, man, I don't even want to be in the same catering line as Craig Owens. We'd be cool. We could probably work together. So, you know, I would say I'd put him on the same level as Matt Sanders. I think he belongs on the A tier. Above Chino from the Deft Ones. But can we put him on the same level as Axl Rose? I don't think we can. He looks like a clone of me. We kind of do look similar. Kind of do look similar. Andy Biersack. All right. How about that? That's a good one. Andy Biersack from the Black Veil Brides. Look at this fucking gorgeous man. It's horrifying. It's like, it's hard to pick just one photo of Andy at his best because there's so many. He kind of looks like Ruby Rose, doesn't he? Got a similar kind of look, you know? Like somewhere between Ruby Rose and Justin Bieber. You don't see it? Look at that. Devastating. He's got a little bit of a stronger jaw, but devastating. Devastatingly handsome man. I'll simp for Andy all day long. Here's my my favorite moment. This is my favorite thing about Andy. Is this. This is when they won the Golden God Award back in 2013. So there's all these metal fans like standing right up there, flipping off Black Veil Brides and, you know, spitting at him and stuff. And this is 2013 when like the neckbeard hate for Black Veil Brides was at its peak. And I think this was when Andy was still drinking. So he lost his cool, as you'll see, but I love it.
Here's the thing, you motherfuckers should have voted for somebody because Black Veil Brides won 3 years in a row.
I love his, like, it sounds like he's putting out his, like, strip club DJ voice. He has WWE heel voice. This is his real voice. This is how he always talks. Here's the thing. Like, he's this gorgeous man, but he's, like, such a nerd.
Let me say one thing. I know that you fat motherfucker, and you right there, you hate us, but I'm holding a heavy as shit award, so fuck with me right now, motherfuckers.
One of my favorite moments of all time. I could listen to this over and over and over again, and it never gets old. He's so good.
Here's the thing. Black Veil Brides have a song on the radio. You have a fucking fat ass. Fuck me, come on.
In his Cincinnati accent, you have a fucking fat ass.
I don't care what any of you fat bearded motherfuckers say. Black Veil Brides won the best song of the year. In the end, this one goes out to Urban Flanders. Fuck you.
Incredible. I'll tell you what. To me, I'm going to put Andy Biersack on the S tier for 2 reasons. I don't think he's the world's greatest vocalist. He's okay. It's not great. I'm sure he would agree with me. Super charismatic, but a cool guy. And most importantly, the best awards acceptance speech of all time. This man goes on the S tier for that speech alone. World's prettiest vocalist. He's definitely up there. Okay, Zack from Rage Against the Machine. That's a good one. How about that? Zack De La Rocha from Rage Against the Machine and Inside Out. As some of you may know, his old hardcore band, Inside Out. Have you guys ever heard his old hardcore band? This band is so fucking good. Yeah, very leftist. This is one of the best hardcore records ever. Incredible, incredible hardcore vocalist. And look at this. Their first fucking show, 1991. Their first show. Look how good they were at their first show. Their first fucking show. Imagine seeing a band play at your fucking college, and this is their first show ever. I mean, super fucking tight, and literally their first show. It's ridiculous. Zack as a vocalist is fucking incredible. I mean, you saw that. He's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Like, one of the best hardcore vocalists of all time. Probably the single best rap rock vocalist of all time. The dude is on another fucking level. I don't agree with very many of their politics, but I respect it, especially Zack. You know, he's never really fallen into that thing of Tom, of kind of becoming like a smug limousine liberal Democrat. You know, Zack's always kept a low profile. Seems like he's just sincere about what he believes, whether you agree with him or not. He seems sincere, and I can respect that. Charisma, you know, he's a really quiet person off stage from what I can tell. I don't know him, but I know lots of people that knew him back in the day from the hardcore scene and stuff. Everyone has great things to say about him. His stage presence is ridiculous. You know, you watch like their Woodstock 99 set, you know, any of their sets, like the dude just fucking kills it live. He's incredible. Like, it still makes the hair on my arms stand up to watch those old Inside Out sets from like, you know, the early 90s. I have nothing but respect for Zack. Would I like to be friends with Zack? Yeah, of course. I mean, we do know several of the same people, and everyone seems to like him. To me, he just seems like, you know, he's a little bit older than me, so he's like the generation above me of hardcore kids, and he just seems like someone I feel like I know him, even though I don't. Zack, if I'm not busy hanging out with Sugar Ray, we can be friends too. I would say he goes on the A tier. Not up there with Axl Rose, and unless he drops an incredible acceptance speech like Andy Biersack, I would have to put him on the A tier. He's not up there with Andy yet. Next up, where do we put Fred Durst? There's a lot of things to say about Fred Durst. I've made like 50 videos about him, and I will continue to make videos about Fred Durst as long as you people keep watching them, which is probably going to be forever. Because you people love watching videos about Fred Durst. I don't know why, but you do. Where does he belong? Well, here's the thing. Fred Durst is a terrible vocalist. Fred Durst knows this. He's a smart guy. He's no dummy. He's a terrible vocalist. Like, really bad. He is just awful. He's sort of like Mike Muir from Suicidal Tendencies. Doesn't have a ton of vocal ability himself, but he always manages to fill up a band with people who are really good musicians. So, not a great musician, but is he charismatic? Fuck yes, he is charismatic. You see, to this day, 20 years after the band was in their prime, people still love watching videos about him. Everyone loves Limp Bizkit. And in his prime, he smashed Prime Christina, smashed Prime Britney. He was on TV partying with fucking Paris Hilton and everyone else. The dude was on top of the world. Peak Chad, the ultimate nu metal Chad. And everybody hated him for it. They hated him because they wanted to be Fred. They wouldn't say this out loud, but really what they were saying is, I would give anything just to get the chance to smell Fred Durst's finger for 1 second. That's what they were thinking, even if they wouldn't say it. They just wanted to smell Fred Durst's finger. These two fingers right here, and that one down at the bottom, this guy, they just wanted a sniff of that. That's all they wanted. You got to give him some credit for that. Would I like to be friends with him? He actually seemed like a pretty cool guy. I think the red hat idiot character that he plays in the band is just a character. He's been pretty clear about that in interviews. He seems all right. I would be friends with Fred Durst, I think. I didn't mean to have this be a sausage party. You're right. We should add a female here. Let's add one of my favorites, Gwen Stefani. Arguably like the most famous person of like the 90s alternative scene, other than Kurt Cobain, sort of the post-grunge 90s. I mean, is anyone more famous than her? She's a huge mainstream star, goes beyond just music. She's been relevant for way longer than No Doubt, although No Doubt is certainly, always going to be a popular band. And very good, too. No Doubt was great. They had a lot of great songs. I have a ton of respect for her. Like, to stay relevant for as long as she did, and to have an impact in music and in fashion and just as like a celebrity in general, being on, is it The Voice that she was on? Big fan. And would I like to be friends with her? Absolutely. Her and Blake Shelton seem like top-notch people. I would definitely have her and Blake over to watch some UFC, and Blake and I could barbecue and talk about lawn care. Salt of the earth. I mean, aside from the fact that they're both extremely wealthy, but they wouldn't make it weird. They'd pull up in their Bentley, but it wouldn't feel weird. They're so great that they're your friends that are way more rich and successful than you are, and yet it doesn't feel weird. So shout out to Gwen Stefani, and shout out to Blake Shelton too. I want to be friends with both of them. Gwen, when I'm not hanging out with Matt from Avenged Sevenfold, and I'm not hanging out with Sugar Ray, and I'm not hanging out with Zach from Rage Against the Machine, you and Blake are welcome over anytime. She made some great music too, so you got to put her on the S tier. Anybody that doesn't have Gwen Stefani in the S tier is dead to me, goddammit. Dead to me. That does it for this edition of the Front Person Tier List Part 2. Look at this nice little waterfall we made here. I'll simp for Andy all day long.